Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Arvin Lamont CSC meeting. It is 5 o'clock, so we can go ahead and get started. Let me start recording the meeting real quick. Okay. Amy, you'll have to record since you are the host. Okay, perfect. Welcome everybody again. We are very excited that you have joined us this evening. We know some of you are joined by car. Before we get started, we will spend a few minutes going through our interpretation and housekeeping slides. So we can start first with getting our interpretation set up so everyone can participate. At this point, I am happy to invite Tanya from our Lingüística team to share those instructions.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a su reunión. Les recordamos que ya tenemos la interpretación encendida y disponible para que aquellos de ustedes que deseen escuchar la junta en español. Si ustedes ingresaron con una computadora, en la parte de abajo de su menú de Zoom van a ver el icono de un mundo. Por favor, seleccionen ese icono y seleccionen el canal de español. También pueden seleccionar silenciar el audio original para que solamente escuchen la voz del intérprete. Si ustedes ingresaron con un teléfono móvil o una tableta, sus opciones van a ser un poco diferentes. Van a tocar su pantalla y van a buscar los 3 puntitos con el menú de más o more, ya sea en la parte de arriba o abajo de su pantalla. Van a ver el menú que dice interpretación de idioma y en las actualizaciones nuevas en algunos aparece el icono del mundo. Pueden seleccionarlo ahí y seleccionar el canal de español y también silenciar el audio original. Y por último, el botón que diga done, listo y finalizado, si les aparece. Si no les aparece es porque no necesitan seleccionar. Ahora voy a dar mis instrucciones en inglés. Hello, everyone. This is just a reminder that we already have interpretation function ready for you. So if you're a monolingual English speaker, we do ask you to please select the English channel. That way you can have that communication from Spanish into English simultaneously. If you're joining with that computer, you will see a globe at the bottom of your Zoom menu. Please click on the globe and select English. If you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, your options will be a bit different. You need to tap your screen and find the 3 dots with the word more, either on top or at the bottom of your screen. Select language interpretation, or maybe now the new update has the globe as well. Click on that option and select English. And then if you have the option, you can select done or finalize. Please let us know if you need any help. We can help you or assist you with interpretation. Thank you very much.
This is Liz. Thank you so much, Tanya, for those interpretation instructions. Let's give it a moment to see if we have it all set up correctly. Amy, let me know, maybe a thumbs up once that's ready. Thumbs up, perfect. Okay. So it looks like our interpretation is on, but as Tanya mentioned, if you are having any troubles, if you can't hear anything, please feel free to speak up and let us know. We will stop the meeting to make sure that you are able to get into the proper interpretation channel and that you have no issues. One thing I also want to highlight on these slides is we are asking all folks in this meeting to please state your name before you start speaking. You'll notice when I first started, I said, this is Liz. This is a really, really important part of our interpretation. It's really important for those who are on the other side of the interpretation to be able to understand the flow of the conversation. It can be hard when we are not stating our names. So we will be reminding folks throughout tonight to please state your name before speaking, and just really encourage folks to start building this practice. So moving forward in our slides, here are the naming conventions. So if you are a member of the CSC, We ask that you designate that in your Zoom name. And if you are a resident, a part of our stipend program, we also ask that you put an R in your name. And this, again, is an important part of our stipend tracking process. If you are from another agency or even a member of the public, we also ask that you still add that to your Zoom name just to help us keep track of who is here and our attendance tracking. On this slide is our virtual meeting etiquette. So we ask for everyone to stay on mute unless you are speaking. If you are calling in on the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. We also ask if you have a comment or question to please raise your Zoom hand so we can keep track of everybody. And if you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. And we also have another reminder for residents in the stipend program to please stay on for at least 75% of our meeting to be eligible for the stipend. On this slide, we have our group agreements, and these should feel very familiar at this point. We do typically spend some time reading through these. We will not take that time today, but just know that as your facilitators, we will be keeping these enforced and making sure that we are having a productive and respectful discussion tonight. On this slide, we have our agenda for tonight. We will start with our welcomes and introductions. Then we will have a review of our action items tracker. Then we have one of our main agenda items, which is the outreach subcommittee meeting review. Then we will have a grant application walkthrough. And then we'll have our usual standing updates and then wrap up our meeting and then have our final public comment. And so I'll stop sharing my screen and just want to welcome everybody again. For those who joined maybe a little late, my name is Liz Lev, and I'm one of the facilitators on the Harder and Company team, joined here by my co-facilitator, Amy Ramos. At this point, I would love to open it up for some welcome and introduction from our co-leads and our Air District representative. I know we have Bianca here, and I am scanning to see if Cesar is here as well. Would love to invite you both to share any opening remarks if you have any at this time.
Yes, hi, this is Cesar. Just a quick thank you to everyone for joining, and really want to take note that, we've already been here for quite some time, meeting as a committee. We're one of the, if not the largest committee in the 617 process, and we're staying strong. The numbers are still here, so big thank you to everyone that has been here and is here.
This is Liz. Thank you, Cesar, for those great, warm opening words. It is really nice to see so many faces that have continued through this process. And Bianca, I know you are in a car with several CSC members, so I'll give you a moment in case there's anything that you would like to add, but there's no pressure. And I'm sure we can hear from you later tonight as well. And so at this point, we'd love to invite our Air District representative, Jessica, to share any opening remarks.
This is Jessica. Thank you, Liz. I'll just echo the welcome from Cesar and echo the thanks for staying strong and just the great participation. Not only do we have a lot of folks that attend the meeting, but we have a variety of different folks we hear from during the meetings, and we're hoping to continue that tradition tonight. So certainly a lot of the discussion today is a reflection of some of the feedback we've already heard, but we're certainly open to continued discussion. So feel free to engage with us tonight. That's what these meetings are about. And especially tonight, we have a lot of space to have those discussions. I just want to, again, as always, thank the co-leads for helping us craft the agenda, especially all of you, or I should say, in addition to all of you who helped us at the agenda setting, come up with what we were going to talk about today. This really is a co-developed and co-created process with you all. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll pass it back to Liz. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jessica. And this is Liz. So at this point, I'm happy to transition us to our next action item, which is reviewing our action items tracker. So we take this time at every meeting to review the past action items, hear about their progress and any updates. We will have also at the end of this action item review, I believe we have a Caltrans representative who will be sharing some of their updates as well, just a little early because they will have to leave our meeting early. So I will pass it to Eric and he will walk through the updates for the action items, and then we will answer any questions and pass it to our Caltrans representative. So Eric, take it away.
Thank you, Liz. Yes, this is Eric with the Valley Air District, your Arvin and Lamont community liaison. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you folks see my screen? Perfect. I see some thumbs up. Alrighty. As always, we do have 4 sections with our action items. I know folks do receive our most recent action items in the mail, which is a smaller version of this. So we're going to be covering 3 sections, our in progress, complete, and ongoing. I'll go ahead and start with our in progress. Oh. Okay. Go ahead and try this again. Well, presenting mode is not working today, so I'll go ahead and zoom in. So, all right. I'll actually hold off on our Caltrans items just because, as Liz said, we do have a representative here that's going to go over these in greater detail. So I'll go ahead and start off with action item 38.4, current energy. I know folks wanted to have more than 4 months be available on their historical data. Current Energy and the district, we've been working together to update the folks of the CSC to have that information at a future CSC meeting. All right, I'll go ahead and return to the top. Go to our completed section. So we did have a CSC member that had some concerns about waste cleanup by Haybaker, north of Panama. Both the district and Kern County have reached out to this individual and will continue to work with this individual as things progress. All right, moving to our ongoing section, which is our last section. So as always, the district, we are committed to sending paper copies of just great fact sheets, comprehensive information to the folks of the Arvin and Lamont community and all of our AB 617 communities. And if folks need any more information, please feel free to reach out. In your packets, you should see some flyers as well for a program that we have. And I know I saw David on this call, so I'll go ahead and go back to our first action item. So I know Caltrans is working to update ongoing projects for the following roundabouts at State Route 184 and 223. I'll go ahead and open it up to David. I think I saw you on the call.
Yep.
Perfect.
David Deal with Caltrans regarding 38.1. And I believe that's the roundabout issue. Caltrans will begin improvements in what I was told mid 2025. So they are still in process of getting all approvals done so that they can issue a contract and actually start construction.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll scoot over to the bottom, 38.5. Go ahead, David.
This is Dave Deal again with Caltrans, and I wanted to say I'm sitting in for Lorena Mendiblis, who will be back on the meetings for the next time she couldn't attend this evening. Let's see. She says that she is meeting with Kern Public Works tomorrow regarding the transit shelter, and hopes to provide an update to the meeting, the May meeting, the next meeting in May. So she's going to get her information from Kern Public Works and then be able to provide that to the committee.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. I'll go ahead and leave it open for questions regarding our action items. Go ahead, Tim.
I feel like needs to be clarification on the runabouts. Our questions are not regarding the runabouts. Our question is regarding infrastructure projects that were promised after the runabouts would be constructed on the north side of 184. I feel like you guys are concentrating on the runabouts. They're already complete. They're already there. We're wondering when the projects that we were promised, like improvements to the sidewalks in Main Street, which is part of 184, projects like a walking path to the local school to Mount View, and also flood prevention projects that were also promised when those were completed. It seems like we're concentrating on the runabouts and not on the actual thing. And I think I clarified this statement on the actual agenda setting meeting, and it got skipped over.
This is Jessica. Thank you so much, Tim, for clarifying that. And yes, I think we just must have misunderstood that action item. So I appreciate the clarification. That is one of our district updates today, but I will happily take it right now. It seems more relevant right now. We are going to our governing board tomorrow to approve that work with Kern County. So we will have more updates on timing and all of the next steps, and we can make sure that we have Yolanda from Kern County's team here to talk about all of those projects. All of the projects you all already supported we are moving forward with the county, and our board is set tomorrow to approve that funding amount that you all supported. So thank you for clarifying, because that definitely was not how we took that note. But I'm happy to provide that update right now. So we should be moving forward with that, as soon as that's approved tomorrow.
Thank you, Tim. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Because one of the questions, because I actually prepared for this meeting because I had several questions. I wish actually the actual representative Caltrans would have been here. I know sometimes scheduling is hard, but also we had other questions regarding, like, is it feasible for us to start advocating again that we would like 184 to be surrendered to the county instead of retaining by Caltrans? Because it seems like we always get promises, but we don't get actual completion of projects. I've noticed several parts of 184, which is Main Street, in the corridors of Lamont that need major improvements that are lacking and almost over 10 years forgotten. And these are some of the issues that we are always advocating, because, you ask for commuters to walk instead of driving, but yet they don't have sidewalks to walk on, or the sidewalks that they do have gaps and potholes. So it's kind of like, you want us to do, but yet you don't provide the tools to do.
So maybe if I can just note as a broader item, and what I wonder if it's a main item for our next meeting, is a comprehensive, that way we have the right people at the right time prepared in like road paving infrastructure comprehensive update. So to Tim's point, it's not just one update on one project, the district's update on another, and like a separate request. Maybe we can all take this comment that Tim just mentioned and then maybe facilitate even more questions folks have ahead of the meeting. So we can come with that comprehensive answer. I can tell you certainly that all that large project with all those different pieces that you all supported, that is going, and we are, moving forward on that and funding that piece. But I hear you when you say, okay, that's one of several discussions that maybe can be happening in the future. So I wonder if that's something we flag for an update at a broader meeting.
This is
Alright.
Liz. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Sandra.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. When you mentioned that there was going to be a bus shelter, possibly from Caltrans, where is it going to be placed?
This is Jessica. I think David, you might have unmuted, but I believe that question is for Caltrans.
No, yeah, I was looking at the notes that I got. I am not sure that they have specifically identified, but that is yeah, that's I got a picture, and it's next to a telephone pole, and it's not really specific as to where I can tell you, hey, this is at the northeast corner of this street in 184. So I believe Lorena was going to follow up with Angela.
This is Jessica. I can add that. Let's add that as an action item too, to get that exact location, since we have the update that, you know, there is something moving forward, but we just want to make sure we understand the exact location. And again, if that makes sense, Sandra, as a comprehensive sort of infrastructure, road improvement, you know, sustainable transit discussion at our next meeting, we can have all of that information, hopefully ahead of time. I'll just ask Caltrans if we can get that, we can send it out to the committee ASAP.
Yeah, thank you. That would be helpful.
This is Liz. Thank you, Sandra, for the question, and we are noting that down. We have a few hands, and next up is Diana.
Sí, buenas tardes. Soy Diana Mireles. Nada más un breve comentario sobre lo que se mencionó ahorita de la 184, que si podías pasarse al condado. En
If
años
they can just give it to the county. We have tried to do that in the past, just to pass it to the county. Unfortunately, it wasn't, we were unable to do it. We were having those meetings with the Chamber of Commerce here in Lamont, and I think they give a presentation, and they were opposed to change the 184. And we as residents and as a member of a committee here in Lamont, we were in agreement to change the 184 to the county or move it to the county, and we were in agreement because that way we could do more advocacy here instead of with Caltrans, because it's very hard for us to contact them and find another place with Caltrans. It was very hard, but that was only a comment about what was happening with the 184 and why it wasn't moved to the county.
This is Liz, and thank you, Diana, for sharing that. Jesus.
Hi, this is Jesus. I just had a quick clarifying question, and sorry if I missed it. If there was going to be 1 or 2 bus stops on the 184 near the Hilltop Fuller Acres area. Because I know historically community members have been asking for one a bus stop near where the current bus stop is. It's pretty centered to the community. So I imagine that's where it would be prioritized. Yes, sir. So would it be? Oh, I guess we'll see next time. But whether or not it'll be in that center location. But and sorry if I missed it. Was it 1 or 2 locations, bus stop locations?
This is Dave Deal again with Caltrans. As far as I'm understanding, it's 1 transit shelter. I think Lorena was going to, as I indicated, meet up with Kern Public Works tomorrow and get further information on exactly where, but from what I understand, it was a singular bus stop.
Thank you.
Ms. Liz, thank you for the question. Next, we can go to Gustavo.
Hi, good afternoon. This question is for Caltrans, for Dave. And I'm sorry if I'm not up to date on maybe reports that were given before, but in the past we are, especially in Arvin, on the intersection of 223 and Walnut Drive, that we've been asking, to have to put a traffic light there. And the last time I heard, I believe Caltrans were planning to just paint a crosswalk there, just painting it. What I'm hearing from residents that's may not even, in terms of the safety, may not be good, especially a lot of students are crossing right now, and more students will be crossing because, the Bakersfield College campus will be, I think, in operation soon. So, Dave, do you have any updates there on the request, or what is the current situation there?
This is Dave Deal with Caltrans. Can you repeat the location? I got 223 and I couldn't.
And Walnut Drive.
Walnut
Drive.
Walnut. Gotcha. I do not have any information on that, but I will pass that on to Lorena, and at the next meeting, she can provide you an update. And that was a crosswalk?
Yeah, I think we have been asking for, I think, a traffic light, because that's kind of between two other traffic lights, and traffic goes very fast in that area. And the concern is that if there is just a crosswalk, painted crosswalk, traffic will not stop, and actually it will be dangerous for people crossing there, because traffic between the other two traffic lights is far one from another, and normally traffic goes fast because the Walnut does not cross the 223. It's just there is a cars cannot go from one side to another, so that's one of the reasons that residents believe that a traffic signal will be the best option in terms of safety for drivers and pedestrians, and also to have a more efficient way for traffic in the heart of the community of Arvin.
This is Dave Deal with Caltrans. So there is no crosswalk currently, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we would if signalization of that intersection is warranted, we would have to also evaluate whether a roundabout would be a better improvement for that intersection. But be that as it may, we will look into that and see what improvements that we could do there, or regarding the signalization.
Thank you.
This is Liz. Thank you for the questions. We're also noting all of this down, and it sounds like we will have, we can discuss at the agenda setting, but it sounds like there will be a more comprehensive update where we can have all of these questions answered at an upcoming CSC meeting. So we can take, I see a couple more hands up, so we will take these last questions, and then we will transition to our next agenda item. So we can start with Francisco.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Yes, good afternoon. I am resident from here in Arvin, and I also wanted you to please to put the traffic light in Walnut because we don't have a street light from that street to the Comanche, and then the cars just pass by like 50 miles an hour, and the ladies with the strollers, they cross over there to take the children to the high school, or they have to turn all the way to Comanche or to the Compass. And another thing, in Comanche, around Bar City, where they're going to put the college, they put the sidewalk all the way to Comanche. And then where Comanche is, from Bar City to Comanche, they don't have a sidewalk until Nancy. And that sidewalk is very needed because there people walk and they don't have any sidewalk, and they're just getting close to the cars, and they can hit the people, and then the sidewalk starts from there until the 7-Eleven, but in that part they don't have a sidewalk and it's very dangerous. So I want you to take that into account so you can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Liz. We definitely hear how important this is, and thank you for sharing that. It does sound like this is a priority topic that we'll bring back and have more time for at a next meeting. So we can go to Christine.
Hi, everybody. This is for the benefit of the residents and to Dave with Caltrans, and in response to Gustavo and some of the residents' comments regarding the Walnut project. So Dave, we've submitted several reports to Caltrans. It's in our Safe Routes to School report. It's in a recent report conducted by California Walks. The city of Arvin has submitted a traffic study to Caltrans. Lorena is aware of this project. And what this latest or the last comment that I have from Caltrans is that there is plans for a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at that intersection of Walnut and Highway 223 that has planned funding that Caltrans is working on right now. Lorena would be the most updated contact on the project. Obviously, the residents would prefer to have a full signal, but I do have a commitment from Caltrans that they were going to, at the very least, fund a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, which is a crosswalk that signalizes so that traffic stops so people can get across at that intersection. So I just wanted to provide that update. Ideally, it would be even better if we had a full signal at that intersection, but that should catch you up. And that's as much as I know with regards to the Walnut project. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. This is Dave Deal again. I just want to iterate. I believe what we call that is a hawk, and it's a rapid flashing beacon. And yes, it is triggered by pedestrians that want to cross. They hit the button just like in a crosswalk, and the flashing lights start flashing. I indicate to traffic that, hey, you need to slow down or come to a stop so that the pedestrians can cross. But I thank you for that.
This is Liz. Thank you, Christine, for the updates. And also thank you, David, for adding that context. I don't see any other hands, and I don't see questions in the chat. So I think we can close this agenda item. We have all of our notes and action items, and we can transition to our outreach subcommittee meeting review. So for this next agenda item, this is a review of the outreach subcommittee meeting that happened, I believe, maybe 2 weeks ago already. So this will be a summary of the key points from that discussion, as well as the next steps that came out of that discussion. And just as a reminder, subcommittee meetings are optional for all to attend, and they are a space to dive deeper into these topics or certain measures that are of interest and also high priority. Typically, the updates from these subcommittee meetings will happen during our standing updates. But since this was the first outreach subcommittee, we heard recommendations that folks would like to dedicate time, an actual agenda item tonight, to having a group discussion and bringing all of that conversation into this space together. So we are hoping that the whole CSC can come out of this agenda item with a more clear understanding of what was discussed and also what those next steps are. And also just so you can have an opportunity to answer or to ask any questions or add any comments if you were not able to attend that subcommittee. So at this point, I'm happy to pass it to, I believe, our Air District team to get us started.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Gonzalez. I am with the Valley Air District. I'm also one of the liaisons for the Arvin Lamont CSC committee. I'll be working with you, and I look forward to working with you. And so I'm going to go over very briefly some of the outreach subcommittee recaps that we discussed about 2 weeks ago now. Next slide. And so just to give you a recap for those that weren't at the meeting, some of the efforts or platforms that we utilize, the district utilizes to ensure that we reach our target audiences in regards to any campaign or program or incentive that we're trying to promote, can be in combination of any of these mediums. Obviously, we tend to utilize social media. That could include Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, and LinkedIn. We use these to share flyers, PSAs, general messaging regarding upcoming events, announcements, and other district-related news. Obviously, we also use traditional media. This includes TV, radio, outdoor billboards. This can be in the form of just simple PSAs or traditional media interviews that we conduct in English and in Spanish. Oftentimes with Univision, ABC 30, NBC, KC24, and CBS. We also use, to complement those above mentioned efforts, digital media or over-the-top media. This is streamlining and delivering content over the internet directly to the consumer. And obviously to emphasize and complement all of the other mediums that we have been utilizing over the years is direct outreach, ensuring that our district staff, along with CSR and grants representatives, are on the ground connecting with the communities directly. And this can be in the form of participating in community events, connecting with the parents at school, with other organizations, and establishing a rapport with other stakeholders in the community. Next slide. And so just to highlight some of the activities that we have completed in this year so far, district staff has been out in Arvin Lamont distributing 2024 Healthy Air Living Kids calendars to all the schools, along with a presentation to a migrant program in Lamont back in February. We also have had an air monitoring van tour with the Boys and Girls Club. And more recently, we participated in the health fair hosted by the Lamont Family Resource and Learning Center. Next slide. So one of the key measures that we're here to talk about tonight, and hopefully come to next steps, would be the residential lawn and garden program. We are happy to announce that a vendor has been selected, and that vendor is Steel. They will be assisting us in the implementation of this program. They are a vendor that has a dealership in the Bakersfield area, but they're willing to coordinate a local event to better serve Arvin Lamont residents. So we are planning a lawnmower exchange event in person during the weeknight of June. That was one of the key highlights from the outreach subcommittee, as some of you might remember, that we are aiming to have it in June, so before the hot summer days, for sure. Next slide. Oh, actually, can you go back one more slide? Sorry, Eric. And so I want to highlight here that this residential lawn and garden program, it really is a combination effort. We have district staff from all departments go out, and it'll be a one-day event that happens within a time frame during the evening, ensuring that all those that register receive their lawn their equipment in that same day. Next slide. The other program or measure that we're here to talk about is the vehicle replace program. Some of the next steps that we want to identify, we are working with Valley Clean Air now, or Valley CAN. They do conduct weeknights replacement workshops in the community. And so what we want to hear from you, CSC members, is if you can identify any location that would be ideal to host a workshop. Please keep in mind that these workshops do require to be indoors, typically a restaurant or somewhere that provides seating, access to bathrooms, and parking as well outside for those attending. And we are aiming to open this program in May or June of this year. And so hopefully we can create a consensus as to what would be the ideal location to host this in your community. And so I think at this time, if anyone has any suggestions or ideas as to where we can host this event, I welcome you. We open the floor.
Soy Elvia. Yo pienso que en el veteranos ahí se
Hello,
podría.
this is Elvia. I think from the veterans, I think we can make it there.
Y también iba a preguntar,
And also, I wanted to ask, you mentioned that if we have signed up for this application for the tools, they sent me a letter. And it says there that we have to put the receipt from the tools. I didn't understand that now. Do I have to take now the tool there? Are they going to reimburse me? When can we sign up so we can also pick up this tool? When is the day or what application?
Going over that as one of our next items on the agenda. After this presentation, we will have one of our district representatives go over the process of the application.
Okay, gracias.
Thank you so much.
Question or suggestion? Joanna?
Sí, mi pregunta era, es que yo casi ya tengo
Yes, my question is, well, I have had a year, my application in the car, and they're gonna get my plates already expired. And my question is, if the plates are expired, do I have to get it again? They are going to expire in June. I have had the application for a year already. How should I proceed? Do I have to get a new one?
I think we have a district representative that can answer that question, right?
Oh, go ahead, Akio, if you were gonna, maybe I'll just tee you up, and I believe, and thank you for the reminder, we definitely want to make sure that we follow up. We have Akio here. He is with our incentives team that works on that program, and maybe can provide an update on how the program works and timing and maybe next steps for Joanna.
What happened?
So, for the program, you mentioned that your tags were expired, or I believe, I'm sorry. But if they are expired currently, we are looking for application that the vehicle is in use for the past 2 years. That doesn't necessarily have to be through registration for our program. It can also be shown through insurance as well too. So if your vehicle is still insured during the time of the past 24 months from the time you apply for the program, then you'll still be eligible for that requirement.
This is Jessica. Thanks, Akio. And maybe I'll just add that can we follow up, Akio, in the morning with Joanna, if you can we have your contact information. I don't know if you happen to have your project number. So what we'll do is we'll reach out directly to you and we'll get your project number from you, and we'll know exactly what's going on with your application to make sure we're understanding what the next steps are. It is possible that we were waiting for final approval to get you more money through this new program. And so that once that launches here in the next few weeks, then it should be a lot faster. But we want to confirm that, and I will have our team reach out directly to you and ask about that project number and get you an official status.
Ok, muchas gracias. Sí, porque le digo que ya
Thank
tiene
you
mucho.
so much. Yes, it's been a while, and I keep saying, do I have to pay them again? And you already told me no, so hopefully it's a no. I already have this with the insurance, but I didn't want to pay them one more time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll look into it and I'll give you a phone call tomorrow morning in regards to your application.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zaccheo. Sandra?
Yeah, thank you. I had just a general question. For the community of like Fuller Acres, I don't believe that there's a restaurant in that community. And I know it has to be, you know, when you host these specific meetings, they have to be indoors. That's become, at least for me, a little bit difficult. So I just kind of wanted to pose a question to like the entire CSC, right? And folks in the area, like, are there any other possible places where we could host a workshop in Fuller Acres to ensure that folks also in that community have access to this program? Yeah, that would be my question.
Great, thank you. I think Heather, can you chime in and see if we?
Hi, Danny. What can I do for you?
Oh, the CSR members that or the CSC members asking if in the Lost Acres could be hosted in an event as well as there.
And this is Jessica.
Go ahead, Jess.
I think Sandra is more posing it, Sandra, right, to like everyone else, kind of where as Fuller Acres residents they feel. Is that kind of what you were asking, Sandra, is to maybe solicit community input as to where they feel might be best?
Yeah, and I would definitely encourage the community, like folks that live in the area to speak up. But also if there really is no restaurants or no like indoor place where you could host a meeting, would the Air District be available to host an outdoor meeting, right? At a resident's house and things like that.
Maybe I'll hit on it and team, let me know if I'm missing something. Generally, two things. One is this actually is our partners who host it, not the Air District. And the reason it needs to be indoors isn't necessarily anything about like under shelter or in comfort. It is actually folks are plugged in with printers and like scanners, and they are processing applications in real time to get folks immediately in line to be a part of this process. It does take a little bit of paperwork. The hope is, and hopefully maybe we can talk a little bit the other way around about making sure we can get folks from Fuller Acres maybe to the event that's happening in Lamont. That might be for now the first best way to see if maybe it's more of a let's make sure we have folks that can get maybe shuttle people over. We do have mini grants, and I'm wondering if that's a creative use of them, is that we can provide funding to a CBO, and that could be the use of that grant is to get folks to an event if for some reason we don't have an available space in Fuller Acres, but down the street, recognizing it's a different part of the community, but in Lamont, we might have a different place. So I'm wondering if that's the first best approach. If there are no indoor spaces. I'm not sure, Akio or Heather or Danny, if like outdoors based on the way these programs work makes sense.
Yeah, from what I've seen, this is Danny. From what I've seen, just again, Valley Can are the leading agency that hosts these events. And we do share their social media that they share weekly on a weekly basis from all these events that they host. And any of you can go into our social media and see those events. We do repost them. And I want to say about 99.9% of the time they are indoors. And for those same reasons that Jessica just pointed out, that they need access to power source in order to be able to process these applications and assist interested applicants to the fullest.
That said, I will also, this is Jessica. I also open up and welcome Sandra's question, whether in the chat or folks want to raise their hand and offer one of those locations. And then I'll also continue to plug, and I might even call a few of you about that other kind of idea we just had. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And Diana.
Sí,
Yes. Here in Lamont, unfortunately, we don't have restaurants with a lot of parking, but we have a Rusty's Pizza, and maybe they could have more parking. But maybe if we can take like a room, we have the San Diego room, and we have a lot of community minis in Fuller Acres. They can get together in this same community. So always in the past, with other organizations, we have this type of meetings and they get all together, all the communities get together. So we have those two places, Rusty's Pizza and the San Diego Park.
Thank you, Diana, for that great suggestion for Rusty Pizza and the Park Center. Michelle?
Yeah, I was just thinking on this, and I'm wondering if you did a transportation thing to get them to the, basically to the Wi-Fi and the real time application process. I'm wondering if it would help the residents to have a meeting, maybe in somebody's home or something that's really super local, just to explain why they would want to do that. Just sort of have a meeting and say, gather these documents and this is what we're doing. And, someone could pick you up on X date, X time, that kind of thing. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that. That's a great suggestion, something to consider for sure. Any other suggestions? And again, we don't want to emphasize, it does not only have to be a restaurant, it can be any location that could accommodate residents to be able to provide those necessary utilities to make sure that we are meeting the requirements to fulfill this event. Jesus?
Would there be an opportunity to, because if we're unable to use a resident's home, then would renting out the church that's on the corner, renting or borrowing the church that is on Panama Lane and Waypatch Highway?
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. All suggestions are great. This is something that we can definitely look into them and see which one's the best fit in order to meet the needs of and obviously taking into consideration that we need to discuss with Valley Can to ensure that this venue could also work for them as well, since they're the ones leading this program.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Any other suggestions? Well, if any other suggestions do come in mind after this meeting or between the next subcommittee meeting or the next CSC meeting, by all means, please let us know. We can definitely take those in consideration, and we hopefully have this ready to roll out soon enough for you guys. Next slide. And so with that, I do want to emphasize that outreach opportunities are endless. We want to make sure that the district has a presence in the community of Arvin Lamont. We want to make sure that we are visible, we are present, and we establish a rapport with residents, stakeholders, and other community-based organizations. So if you do know of any upcoming events in the coming future, in the next couple of weeks, months, please let us know, reach out to us. We would be more than glad to go out there, let it be an evening event, a weekday or a weekend. The district will make the effort to be there because we want to make sure that we are establishing that rapport with you guys. And so please, do not hesitate to let us know of any events that you know that are on the way. And so with that, that concludes our outreach presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Danny Gonzalez. I know many of you probably is a new face to you, but I look forward to working with you. And there is my contact information should you need me to reach out.
Hi, everyone. This is Amy. Thank you, Danny, for that presentation. And I'm also noting that Jesus Alonso commented for the Weech pad, the Sunset Middle School could work as well. So we'll make sure to make a note of that, Jesus, in our notes for this evening. Now it's time to transition to our next agenda item, which is the grant application walkthrough item. We have allocated about 35 minutes or so to spend on this agenda item. So based on recommendations that you all provided at the agenda setting meeting and the recognition that the Air District does want to increase participation in its grants program, we're going to dedicate this time to learning about the Air District's grant application process with the intention of ensuring that everyone understands the entire application process. So for example, understanding and recognizing the difference between online applications versus in-person applications. What does it mean to fully submit the application? When is it incomplete or complete? All those questions will be answered by Marisela from the Air District. So the goal for this agenda item is that all CSC members have enough details to be able to participate in these programs. So as Marisela is presenting, if you have questions, please do feel free to raise your hand or place your comments in the chat. And we really do want to make sure that this presentation is clear and that you all have what you need to be able to participate in the program. So with that said, Marisela, please take it away.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Hello, good afternoon. This is Marisela from the Air District, and I am a representative here in the outreach department. And before starting the presentation, I would like to just answer the question for Elvia. Elvia, what happened was that we sent these flyers so you could know about this program. But what are we going to do, as Danny mentioned in his presentation? We are going to have an event to just exchange those lawnmowers between May and June. So that's what we prefer you to do, to go to that event, so you don't have to present a receipt or have a proof that you already recycled the old one. So I wanted to comment that those were flyers so you could know about this program, but we are planning this event. So when we have the date coordinated, we will let you know through an email, and we can call you to let you know about that information, okay? So with that, we are going to start with the presentation. Let's see. Thank you, Eric. So we are going to do a walkthrough with the grant application. Next slide, please, Eric. This, like you know, we are an agency that is covering the 8 different counties here in San Joaquin Valley, and we not only have those grants or incentives for the residents, we also have a variety of grants for public agencies and also for residents, for businesses or companies. And we also have a category in this web is for technology. And right now, I'm gonna pass this slide, but after finishing this presentation, I'll give a review with the website so you can see it in action. Next slide, please. In this page, and I'm gonna focus on this right now, this is for the residents. You can see that we have a variety of grants for you. The first one we are showing here is the fireplace and Woodstock changed out, and we give funds so you can exchange or change that old fireplace that are polluting with a cleaner one and one that's better for the environment. And the next option is for the program, the Clean Air Rooms program, and that will give these air filtration units free to the residents in the valley for disadvantaged communities. And also what we will be reviewing in a moment is the clean green yard machines, and that's for the residents as well. And that's when we're giving an incentive to replace that lawn and garden equipment that is working with gas for a new one. that would be electric, zero emissions. And the next one that we have here is dry clean in the San Joaquin, and that would be for the vehicle program. One is for the repair, and the second one is for replacement, and the third one is the rebate. And the rebate right now is closed at the moment, but we have three different components for the program dry cleaning in San Joaquin, and we have the last one. The last part, and is a plug-in electric vehicle resource center. In case you buy an electric vehicle in the future, you'll be able to come to this resource center to receive more information. Next slide, please.
Okay, en parte lo que vamos a mostrar
Here
es
in this option, what we're going to introduce the two options for lawnmowers. The first option is the events that we're going to have that we're planning right now. The first option will be to buy an electric lawnmower, destroying your old one. You can receive up to $500. That will be 100% of your reimbursement. In the event, you are going to do everything. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to demonstrate any recyclables. We're going to give you all the information. The second option is that you can purchase new tools, electric tools. This doesn't have to be any exchange. You don't have to destroy an old one. If you just want to buy a new one, lawnmowers, if you want to buy an ager strain hedge, if you want to buy these electric ones, and those pieces cost less than $100, you will get a reimbursement of $25. If that equipment is going to cost you more than 100, then you'll get 50% reimbursed. I do want to tell you that the rebate amount, if you do it in addition to this event, that does not include taxes or accessories or any shipment. I think that was the last slide, Eric. If you can please close it, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take you now to the website. Eric, if you can please put in the chat the website where people, which is valleyair.org, so I can show you the application, please. This is the website that it is valleyair.org. What I just mentioned, Eric is going to add it in the chat. So in any moment you would like to look at the application and the page, this is where you go. What I want to show you is that you will have to go here under grants and incentives. And when you click there, you are going to be able to see, you're going to go in this page where it's going to show you. I had shown you this earlier in the presentation regarding the different organizations that can receive these incentives. Now we are going to click on residents, and if you would like, as I'm mentioning, in other presentations that I have made, you can change your language up here, and that will give you the option of English, Spanish, or Hmong. For residents, you are going to be able to see the 5 options that I mentioned for you right now. I'm going to go to residents for lawnmowers. As I mentioned, I'm not going to talk about option 1 because you're going to have an event coming up, but we're going to do option 2. Let's say that you want to purchase a new lawn or an edger or a trimmer or a chainsaw. You are going to go here where it says apply. It's going to take you to a page where you are going to simply fill out that information. Right now, I'm just going to put it in Spanish, and you're going to see that automatically changes. You're going to add your first name. In some questions, for example, I'm going to put Velasquez. Then it's going to ask you, what is your county of residency? In this case, you're going to put Kern County because we're talking about Arvin and Lamont. Now you're going to add your address and see, you're going to see the options possible. You can find your address and just click it there. So uh, uh, your application is filled out automatically. If your address is different, your mailing address is different, if it is the same as your mailing address, just leave it the same. I'm going to put my main telephone number just in case they have a question, they can call you. And the next important thing is that you need to add an email address. We're going to add this information here. And after, you're going to say which option you would like to select. In this case, I mentioned to you that we are going to do option 2 because we want to buy the new tools. And here you're going to add what type of tools do you buy equipment? Is it the mower? Is it the trimmer? Is it the saw? Or is it you're going to select, let's say that I bought the trimmer in here. I'm going to put the cost. Let's say that I paid $120 for it. After, you are going to be able to drag your receipt, your image. Right now, I don't have a copy of a receipt, but that will be you will be able to upload a picture if you're using your phone or tablet. You can take a picture to your receipt and upload it automatically here. So you're able to select it. And after, you're going to put your name in lowercase. And as you can see, the date automatically, it's auto-filled. And then afterwards, you're going to submit your application. And then in this case, it's going to ask me that I need to add the picture of the receipt. It's very simple. These are the only steps that you will have to follow so you are able to receive your reimbursement. As you can see, it's easy. It's just asking you very simple questions, and a lot of these applications for the residents, they're going to be this way. They're not going to ask extra details or information. It's just very simple and basic. This is what I have for you at this moment. If you have any questions or regarding any other applications that you would like to see or any concerns, I am here. I do have a comment. In Arvin, we are low, the majority of us are low income. And it is very helpful, the incentives that are out there. And I wanted to know, I don't know if this is possible. For example, in Vallarta, it's one of the biggest stores. Everybody goes there. The residents from Arvin go there. And what I saw, it's been a while. I saw a flyer in a store in Lamont and 184 in the corner. It was beautiful. It was, you guys made it. It was from you. And I don't know if we can make something like that and put it in the Vallarta stores. So Naso is just add everything there, details of the cars. Right now, what you talked about, the equipment, make it a little bit bigger. It's just one Vallarta, and that will be a main store right there in the entrance. You can add it there. That will be very helpful. Thank you so much for that suggestion. We are going to add that we can add more information at the Vallarta store. And you said it's an Arvin community, right? Thank you. That's perfect. Any more comments? Joanna made a great suggestion right now. Thank you. Well, then, that's what I have. I'm going to pass it on to Jessica now.
Sorry. For
Did you have?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Jessica, this is Amy.
This is Jessica.
I'm not sure if you had anything else to add to that. I think.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, did she read my mind? This is Jessica. The only thing I was going to add to that is that I wanted to make sure that folks know that, and Mari said it at the beginning, that everything Marisela just went through about application is going to be for the lawnmower if you're doing it on your own. If you are going to be a part of our event, look out. We will send you information about that very, very shortly here. And we will get you through a similar, it'll be very much like what Marisela just walked you through, process. But we will take care of the bulk of the work for you when we host that event. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, because that was one of the goals, that folks understand that the online application might look very different than when they go do it in person. So thank you, Air District, for providing those updates. And now we're going to transition to our general standing updates. So as everyone knows who attends these meetings regularly, we do reserve some time to provide some comprehensive updates from multiple agencies and from community members. I'm looking at the time, so we have ample time to be able to go through today's updates. So with that said, we're going to first go through some general updates that the Air District has that everyone should be aware of. So at this time, I'm going to pass it back to the Air District to provide us some updates, and then we'll go through the list of our general agencies. We'll hear a brief presentation from Current Energy, and then at that time, we'll open it up for any other community updates that folks have at this time. So Jessica, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thank you. This is Jessica. Thank you again to our outreach team for taking the lead on so much of today's meeting. I wanted to update you all on a couple of other things we talked about at our last meeting. The first is just an announcement, and you should be getting the email by the end of the day tomorrow, is that we are hosting on Tuesday, May 7th at 4 p.m. our Vegetative Barriers Subcommittee meeting. So that is really exciting. It's our first official subcommittee meeting. So please attend if you can. That of course will be via Zoom and have the translation services or interpretation rather, as with every meeting. I also wanted to let you all know, I said it at the top of the meeting based on questions, but as a something to remind you if you didn't hear me say it at the top of the meeting, we are getting official final next step approval from our board to move forward with the paving projects that you all supported in that Lamont, Fuller Acres, Kern County area. And so we will come to you. It sounds like our next meeting will focus a lot on those projects. So I think it's just great timing. We will have a more comprehensive update on all of the different questions you had, not only for us and the county, but also for Caltrans. And then my last update is that you should have an email, and you will probably get a few more from us before the summer is over. But on June 22nd, we invite you, it is a Saturday, to come out for something we are calling Community Clean Air Day. We are hosting it in Fresno at the Convention Center downtown. And for you all in the Arvin, Lamont, and certainly other Kern areas, we are all offering to have a bus take anyone who's interested in attending, a bus pick you up so you don't have to drive yourself to the event. So we'll continue to send out more information to you all, but I definitely, in case you haven't had a chance to take a look, we will also start sending maybe some physical materials to those that get physical packets. That way you can start to see the day as it is progressing. And definitely shout out, we definitely have some support from the co-leads in helping design this, and really looking forward to having a day where not only do you get to meet with the district in person, but you'll get to meet other CSC members from other CSCs across the valley, and maybe even just other communities that aren't a part of 617 across the valley in person, and share your story as well as hear their story. We're really excited about that, and really eager to move that forward. Other than that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions for me before I pass it back to you, Dr. Ramos. I don't see any, so I'll go ahead and pass it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. This is Amy. I was just going through all the boxes, make sure there's no hands raised, and I'm not seeing anyone's. So at this time, we're going to invite CARB, or California Air Resources Board, to provide any updates. I see Michelle is here tonight.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get to my mute button. Yeah, I'm here. I don't have any really big announcements, except I am going to paste something into the chat just to let you all know so that it can get interpreted right. But let me see if I can, I'll say it verbally too. So last Monday, OCAP, that's the division that I work in, the Office of Community Air Protection. Some of my colleagues published an update to the Community Air Protection Incentives Guidelines. And this includes some new and updated project types that will help meet the community goals better. For example, one of the project types will now include paving, which just got done talking about. And this is going to help a lot of people to reduce their exposure to dust and to help improve the community greening as well. Some of the projects will. And I just wanted to let you all know that this comes directly from communities like yours, and will be helping communities everywhere that come into the program later, at later dates. So I just want to thank you all for your work on this. Wonderful. I'll post a link to those guidelines in the chat.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for posting those links, and appreciate the update, and appreciate how CARB is engaging in some of these community-driven processes. At this time, we typically do have an update from DPR, or Department of Pesticide Regulation, but I am looking for them and I'm not seeing them here. Oh, there you are, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, there you are. Would you like to provide any updates?
Yes. So I have a update regarding the pesticide notification system. We know that there has been significant public interest in hosting a beta test for the statewide notification system in Kern. We understand that this is tough news, and this has been a priority for the community in Arvin, Lamont. I can now let the community know that the statewide notification system is scheduled to go live in the first quarter of 2025. Kern County is targeted to be one of the counties that will be part of the priority rollouts in early 2025. But therefore, to achieve the timeline of the statewide notification launch in the first quarter of 2025, we, DPR, need to transition and focus on the final phases of design and development to launch the statewide notification system.
Amy, thank you, Jimmy, for that update. Any questions or comments from folks about this update? All right, not seeing anything. Oh, one spoke too soon. Go ahead, Bianca.
So you're telling the community members that their voices are not being heard with the notification, and that PR is not
It's a little hard to hear you.
Hi, Bianca, this is Amy. I'm having a difficult time hearing you as the facilitator. I'm not sure if other folks are also having that same problem. So I want to make sure that we can translate everything as well. So the translation might be a little bit behind. Can you repeat everything you said? This is Amy again. I think we may have lost Bianca. I know Bianca is driving.
I have a question. So
there
you're
you
telling
go.
community members that their efforts and support for the notification, not just only from Arvin and Lamont, but from Shafter, are worthless, and their efforts to add it to the SERP is not going to be enough for DPR to represent them with the county. That's initially what the county wanted, and for you to tell members that their efforts and support for the notification.
Hi, this is Amy. Bianca, I heard the first part of your comment, but I did not catch the actual question.
I'll write the comment in the chat later on.
So I'm sorry, Bianca, we just can't translate and keeps on getting cut off. And
oh, this is Aniela from DPR. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in here. I was able to hear Bianca. I just wanted to let everybody know that at this time, DPR and Kern County were working hard to try to make this work. However, on both sides, we couldn't find a path forward. And we understand that that's really unfortunate and tough news for all of you guys who worked so hard to try to make this happen. Therefore, like at this time, because it just couldn't work on both sides, we figured out that the best path forward is to focus on that launch, which is now targeted for Q1 2025. And that way we can make sure that we can get that statewide notification out on time for that first quarter. And, you know, just make sure that Kern County is also a priority county for that first rollout. So that's what DPR is focusing on right now. Jimmy and I both were not on that team that worked on the notification system. So like, that's all I've been told at this time. And if there's any interest later, we can talk about in the agenda setting meeting next week about potentially having somebody come for an update that might help.
And this is Jessica. Thanks, Aniela and Bianca. That was going to be my suggestion. It sounds like especially the team that we have here. I definitely want to thank the DPR folks here. It sounds like they might not be the notification team, but what I did hear, although not part of the test, the priority of Kern County is still a part of the early 2025 rollout. So before, like in the next 6 to 8 months, there will be a rollout of pesticide notifications, and Kern County will be one of the first to sort of make sure they're part of that rollout. But all of those details and maybe the next steps is something that I think maybe someone else from DPR might have. So I wonder if we can offer to have a more in-depth conversation with the right folks. And as Bianca, I know, is also going to put some maybe other thoughts together. Does that sound okay? And I know Gustavo rose his hand. I wonder if that works for him as well.
go ahead, Gustavo.
Yeah, you know, it's really disappointing, you know, just to hear this news. The residents and organizations work hard to bring both DPR and the county to the table. I think you all know the struggles that we had bringing the Ag Commissioner to have these conversations. And last year, we finally were able to, you know, pursue them to have the conversation. I think at least we have the right to know, because I think was mentioned, you know, that both sides were trying and both sides kind of recognized that, and that's not just my interpretation, that both sides recognize that maybe they didn't do enough to make it happen. I believe we deserve, explanations of why it didn't happen. Because we really trusted both, DPR and the county, because we got the commitment from the supervisors that they were going to do their, best effort to make it happen. And, having 5 other counties having this project, not having, issues between the county and DPR in implementing these, similar projects, I just don't understand why, DPR and the county, the art commissioner, were not able to do that because, we want an explanation from DPR, but we also want to know all the information because we want to, at least we want to go back to the supervisors and, keep them accountable for any, lack of cooperation that they may, may not engage in doing that, because we really trusted both organizations, the county and the state, and this is really disappointing, like for residents in Shafter, they were doing peace advocacy for 4 or 5 years, going to the county supervisors meetings and, making the effort. And after, Arvin Lamont project came alive, we joined forces and we raised our voices with the county, bringing the county to the table. So the least we deserve is, transparency of what happened, why the both parties were not able to reach agreement, because I think we deserve that. I understand that, time is running, but I think we deserve, explanations of why the 2 entities were not able to, agree to make that happen for the community. It's not for both of them. They represent us, the residents. Thank you.
This is Amy. Thank you, Gustavo, for your words. Jesus Alonso?
I raised my hand for the same reason as Gustavo just mentioned. We really need a clarification of why it didn't work out and why we're essentially not being prioritized. I know, it was mentioned that later on we'll get it. But that's something we hear often. Later on, that data arrives. Later on, that data arrives. Later on, that data arrives. So like Gustavo said, we really do need an explanation as to, what had occurred, and we need some accountability. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jesus, for your comments. I do know that at the end of the meeting, we are providing a date for the pesticide subcommittee meeting. Wondering, since Kern County isn't here tonight, if we can potentially request that DPR and Kern be there. Jessica from Air District, how does that sound?
At the pesticide subcommittee? Oh, of course, yes. This is the pesticide subcommittee is the Kern County and DPR and CARB subcommittee. So I think that makes the most sense. And that allows us to spend a good amount of time on the item. So if that makes sense, is that we spend that whole meeting maybe digging into, or as much as the meeting as we need, digging into it, but then also having an update at the next regular meeting that follows that pesticide subcommittee, so that everyone who can't make that meeting also gets the update. So that's maybe what we recommend. I appreciate that offer, and I definitely appreciate everyone on the call kind of sharing their frustration, and certainly also just some great direction on how we can make sure to keep everyone on the same page. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. This is Amy. Gustavo, did you have a follow-up comment?
Yes. You know, unless I understood wrong, but looks like it's a done deal, you know, it's not going to happen. And if that's not going to happen, no matter what, you know, this project, pilot project, I would recommend for DPR and the county to provide the updates on a regular meeting, not on the subcommittee, because if there is still, if the DPR and the county are still willing to listen to the community and change their mind, yes, that makes sense to have that conversation, the pesticide subcommittee. If there is no way that they are going to change their mind, I would prefer for the two agencies to make the updates here with everybody, where everybody can hear. But if there is a chance that they change their mind, the pesticide subcommittees make sense. Otherwise, I would recommend to have the updates here with everybody.
Yeah, and I can take all of this information back to the people at DPR who are working on this specifically and give them this feedback. So I plan on doing that. And I definitely, and just everything is still going ahead, and all of the regulatory development and the development for the statewide notification system next year. So that's definitely happening. It's just the beta test for clarification.
Thank you, Aniela. I also see a hand raised from Lily.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add in that on the pesticide subcommittee, OEHA and I work with CARB as well. So there's other state agencies involved in some of these processes, and some of the rulemaking that DPR had mentioned earlier is tied into some of these processes that make it take longer. And I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just trying to add that there are other agencies involved as well with pesticide concerns.
This is Amy. Thank you, Lily, for that context. Bianca, please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to let everybody know we have a car full of members, and I want DPR to know that we actually went up to EPA this morning at 1 in the morning to talk to them about the notification, and for DPR to, in a CSC meeting, to let us know that is not going to happen. That's frustrating. And you're telling community members from Arvin and Lamont and Shafter that all their efforts, them waking up at 1 in the morning, is worthless. It's a slap in the face. It is a slap in the face because they've been working on it for so long. And literally they're listening to the whole conversation at the moment. I had to pull out of the road and explain to them in detail how DPR is dismissing their remarks and all the efforts they've been doing. So I would want at least to Julie Henderson to give that public comment in a CSC meeting, because this is ridiculous that they've gone not just once. This is the second week in a row that we've gone to DPR for the notification. So I feel that it's very important for them to, for at least give a face to what all the work that has been done in the community.
Thank you so much, Bianca, and to everyone that's in your car for that, sharing your lived experience and sharing, the community perspective. It's really important to ensure that we're grounding ourselves during these meetings and recognizing the discrepancies that continue to emerge as part of the implementation of this work. So we will do our best as your facilitators to turn this into an action item and request that transparency that you all are asking for, and for that to happen at a CSC meeting and a continued conversation at the pesticide subcommittee meeting. One of our action items from our previous meeting was to invite Current Energy to tonight's meeting to provide a sort of Flare 101 kind of overview And Kern Energy is here to do just that. In their update, the goal here is for them to provide an overview of their process and how they use their own internal processes for their operations. So during this time, I'm going to pass it to, Kern Energy to provide us with their update. Again, if you have questions or comments, please do add them in the chat or raise your hand. At this point, I think I'm going to pass it to, I see Kit and Adam and Gabe.
And Melinda.
And you got Melinda.
And
Go
Melinda.
ahead, Melinda.
Hey, Melinda.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. This is Melinda with Kern Energy. As she teed up for us just now, folks have expressed their interest in knowing more about the flare. And I think calling it a 101 is probably right, because there's certainly a lot more to it than what we could get into in this kind of forum. But we definitely wanted to provide some information and address that this evening. So I know they shared the link to the graphic in the chat, but I'll put that up on the screen and then we can kind of talk through that. Is that visible? Okay, perfect. So I want to start with just a few sort of establishing points, and then I'll try to talk through a few key details after that. But first and foremost, I just want the group to understand that the flare is a safety measure. I cannot emphasize that enough. And also, I think it's important for everyone to understand that it is monitored 24/7 a day. 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's both by operations personnel that are manning our facility all day, every day. But also it's monitored by the Air District on a continuous basis. And that's through the continuous emissions monitor that it's equipped with that sends data directly to the district. I know it's not really part of Kern's presentation, but also just wanted to establish that this is very heavily regulated by the district. We work with them closely on that, whether it's through that continuous data or through reports or on-site inspections or any number of other interactions we have with them in order to show that we're complying with Rule 4311 and our permit, and that we're maintaining safe operation of the flare and of the facility. So because it's a safety device, I just want to talk about a few other details. It has to be at the ready sort of all the time. There's always a pilot light that is lit on the flare, very similar to the pilot that works on all of our gas stoves in our homes or in our hot water heaters, so that those equipment or that device is at the ready anytime you need it to react. So it's ready in an instant, and that's exactly the way that we need the flare to be. So there may be times where you notice that pilot, and there may be other times where you don't, but it is always there, and it may just look like a little bit of white or a little bit of blue flame right at the very top of it. Sorry, excuse me there. The other thing I wanted to describe, and it's shown on this illustration, is that our facility, we refer to it as being a closed loop system, which means, I think kind of an easy way to describe it is that it's kind of like balancing a scale, where on one side of that scale, there's the gases that are needed for the operation. And then on the other side of the scale are all the gases that are produced by the operation. And if the two sides of that scale don't match perfectly, then it can result in excess gas that has to go to the refinery flare. And when that happens is when you're likely to see that orange flame at the top And probably in the, as you're going by the facility, it will look like the flame on top of a candle or something, but that's because there's that imbalance. And so you're seeing that excess gas go to the flare. But again, I want everyone to understand that we're staffed 24/7. Our personnel are skilled. They're highly trained in operating the flare and the facility. They make adjustments in real time in order to ensure the safety and the correct operation of the equipment, and that we're always, always committed to operating safely and protecting our workers, our neighbors, and the community.
Hi, Melinda. This is Amy. Thank you for that update. I'm seeing a question from one of our residents that there's a little bit of confusion that they were told there were contaminants as part of this process. And so maybe given that this is a meeting dedicated to air quality and ensuring that we are mitigating carbon emissions, maybe you can talk a little bit about how this flare is related to any contaminants that, or Roberto, if you want to clarify your question, that community might be confusing it with, or any other context that you want to add to answer Roberto's question.
Yeah, if there's clarification to the question, I would appreciate that.
Sí, quería preguntar, siempre nosotros se nos ha dicho que cuando está la flama prendida
I wanted to ask, when the flame is on, it is contaminating, and they are telling us because we have to make a report. When the light is on, the question is, is this going to be contaminating our air or not?
Thank you for the clarification. I don't want to answer from a public health perspective. I don't know that I'm the right one to answer that. I think we have to lean on folks like the Air District for that. But I will say that anytime you see the flare, we do work to minimize any type of flaring activity, although I cannot promise, we can't commit to avoiding all flaring. We do work to minimize that as much as possible. And when we do flare, it's within the allowable parameters that exist within the Air District rule and within our permit. And so while there may be emissions that are associated with it, it's within those permitted limits. And then, like I say, all of that data is going directly to the Air District, so there's visibility on that at all times.
This is Jessica. Thanks to Melinda. We do have someone from the Air District to talk a little bit, though, about the opportunities when maybe things aren't operating within those limits. And sometimes you all see something that doesn't look right to you, like smoke, or something that you're visibly seeing. So I do have Cristela Avalos with the Air District compliance team. She works down in that area. She's based in our Bakersfield office to talk a little bit about that. We have a little bit of time, and I'd be happy to have her walk a little bit through kind of like what she looks for and what you can look for, if that makes sense.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Cristela Avalos, and I am one of the 2 inspectors assigned to Current Energy. Tonight, I would like to share with you some information on a few permit conditions related to the flare. When the flare is in operation, it does not indicate that there is something going wrong at the facility. In fact, one of the flare permit conditions is that the flame shall be present at all times when combustible gases are being vented through the flare. However, when the flare is operating, there should be no visible emissions except for periods not to exceed a total of 5 minutes during any 2 consecutive hours. Also, current is required to demonstrate compliance with this visible emissions limit at least annually by using the US EPA Method 22. In addition to a flame being present in a visible emission standard, there is also a throughput limit on the permit and an annual flare report that must be submitted to the district as required by District Rule 4311. District staff are at Current Energy on a regular basis conducting routine inspections of equipment and fugitive components, equipment breakdown inspections, and complaint investigations. Speaking of complaint investigations, if you see emissions or smoke coming from the flare, please contact us directly as soon as possible. When you submit a complaint directly to the district, it allows our inspectors to gather additional information from you to better address the complaint to assist in our investigation. You can file a public complaint anytime by calling our complaint line directly at 1-800-926-5550. Or you can also submit a complaint online through our website at valleyair.org under quick links or by using the Valley Air mobile app. Our public complaint line is staffed with an inspector 24/7 and 365 days a year and can take your complaint in English and Spanish. Thank you for your time this evening.
This is Jessica. I know there's a couple of questions in the chat, but I just want to reiterate what you all heard, to at least from my perspective as not an inspector, not someone who works at a refinery, is that you might see a flame on top of the flare that looks like a candle. Anytime you're seeing smoke or something visible, that is outside the limitations that is allowed by the district. So that is something not only that the district is already monitoring, but also something that definitely warrants something to call in so that someone on Cristela or anyone on her team can go back out there and make sure that we're working with Kern Energy to make sure that that doesn't happen or try to understand why that happened. So I know that we've talked a few, for past few years, occasionally this comes up because someone sees something. And so from what I'm hearing today is confirmation that that is the indicator, right? If you're seeing something visible coming off of that. One of the other piece is I will just add that one of the questions today, there is intention from Kern Energy, but also from the Air District to work with other colleagues to have a follow-up to this flares discussion, digging a little deeper into the emissions and health impacts. That was a request we heard, but this was sort of part one, just to understand the flare itself, and then part two will be that. So I definitely want to thank you all for those questions and let you know that's something that we want to bring those.
Thank you, Jessica. And I see related to that comment, a comment from CSC about significant benefits in air quality and health to be gained by reducing emissions from flaring and venting activities. So I'm going to pass it to you, CSC, to provide context and any questions that you may have.
Yeah, so that's one of the main findings in the study that's posted there. About the total cost in health effects that flaring causes, especially when they're near neighborhoods. So there is studies that have been done that show that flaring does cause health effects, especially around neighborhoods. And it's important to note that any visible emissions seen is something that can be an indicator that they are out of their out of their permit requirements. We've gotten a lot of reports that there's like puffing that comes on and off. And we have videos and pictures that have been reported to us by community members. But by the time inspectors get there, because they have to call the operator and let them know that there's a problem and that they're on the way, by the time they get there, what was happening usually is not happening. Is there something like for residents that collect that stuff, for them, it feels useful for them for evidence, but it doesn't feel useful to them to make the reports, because when they do submit that, the inspectors have to be there to witness it, and they can't take that third-party pictures or video. Is there something that can be done to use that or to get community voices or that community evidence as part of the reporting process, because that has been something that has been an issue. One example is this Saturday, there was a report that was made about the current energy refinery from two different people because there was thick white smoke coming from stacks. I called at, literally in the middle of the night at 12:15, and the inspector, somebody called me back at about 12:35 from the air district. So I think it is important to make those types of reports, but any evidence that community members have or collect can't be used. And is there something that we can do or something that we can ask the operators to do to start collecting that evidence? Because it seems like by the time the inspectors get there, that's not happening. And they also usually don't take any like FLIR cameras or visible emission evaluation or optical gas imaging. They only do visible emission evaluation, like with their eyes. And it seems like if they took monitoring equipment, they would be able to better assess the problems rather than doing simply, driving all the way out to do a visible emission evaluation and not bring the monitoring equipment.
This is Jessica. I think just in couple, and I do have Jennifer Lettergerber on the call, and maybe you can talk a little bit just more about the process when an inspector responds to these sorts of things. But I will say, in addition, it was mentioned earlier, even though we get there, I'm guessing, Jennifer, and if we have to witness some things ourselves, there are also other avenues. We definitely, I imagine, talk with Kern Energy, or we have that continuous emissions monitoring data that's coming to us that can also be a piece of that evidence. So I'm guessing even if we can't directly use the evidence or pictures from residents, it's helpful in that it allows us to make the contact have a timestamp and still go through the process just with our own tools. Is that something that makes sense?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It's great to have video evidence. If we don't, that doesn't preclude us from doing a full investigation, as if we saw the flaring with our own eyes. We do work closely with Kern in gathering that information that is required by their permit. And so that is a part of our investigative process, as well as any other information or data that we can collect as a part of our investigation. It is all considered. And so that's really, the process we go through with every single complaint. And just to address the complaints from this last weekend, we are aware of those complaints, and we're currently working through those to gather that very information that we need to conclude our investigation.
Yeah, thank you. And the inspector called me promptly in the middle of the night, so props to them. And I definitely didn't want to discourage anyone from collecting videos or pictures. I just wanted to see if there was a better way to synthesize or collect that information. So thank you for that, Jennifer and Jess.
Thank you.
And thank you, Cesar, for your question. This is Amy. I'm also seeing a hand raised. I saw, Sandra, you had your hand raised, but I also see Elvia has a question. So maybe we can go to Elvia first.
Oh, nada más era para darle gracias a
It was
Marisela.
only to give thank you to Maricela of the question that I asked, and she answered me. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra?
Yeah, thank you. And I think Caesar really summed up a lot of what my comments were gonna be, but just wanted to voice that I think it's helpful to know when there's an issue going on in the refinery by what we can visually see. But I did want to also point out that in the annual progress report for the AB 617 last year, we did see that there was multiple violations on behalf of Current Energy, right? Meaning more than one violation per month. Meaning although community can now tell when there's an issue happening, it still isn't addressing the fact that they're violating their emission threshold and still contaminating and harming the community that lives next door, right? And I also just want to voice that I encourage community to always reach out and say when there is things happening, but the responsibility also should not be put on the community to voice when there is something happening in their neighborhood, especially when they're not the ones that are causing the contamination and the harm to their own families and their neighbors, right? So I come here to ask for a notification system. So when there is emissions that are being violated and they're exceeding the threshold, community is aware so they can actually take proactive measures to stay inside of their homes, right? And to not be taking all of that in. I have seen so many kids in Fuller Acres have runny, like bloody noses, headaches, migraines, and this is only particular to the folks that live next to refineries and not folks that don't live anywhere near. So just voicing that it's not the responsibility of the community to stay safe when they didn't put the polluting agency right next door to themselves.
This is Amy. Thank you, Sandra, for raising that and advocating for such a monitoring system. I'm also seeing a question in the chat from Evelyn. Is that monitoring system similar to SIMS where it collects data in 15-second intervals? Or what is the collection frequency and how often is it calibrated per permit requirements? Not sure if folks have the answer to that right now.
Yeah, this is Melinda again. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I cannot rattle those specifics off verbatim, but I think that's something that we could add for a follow-up.
Amy, I also saw that Laura had multiple questions in the chat as well. I know it's hard to facilitate and keep track at the same time.
Oh yeah, no, Laura's part of our public members, so we call on public members after all of our CSC members have asked their questions.
Thanks.
We see your questions, Laura. We will call on them once the CSC has finished asking their questions. Jesus, please go ahead.
I know we talked a lot about visible emissions and making sure to report those. There have been times where the odors are just really strong, but there is no flare. Are those also reportable?
Yes.
And then, oh man, I think I had another question. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yes, please report your odors as well through those same avenues, either by calling our complaint line, going online to our website, or using our Valley Air app.
Great. Thanks, everyone. This is Amy. Any other questions from the committee? I see Cesar has his hand raised.
Yeah, just bouncing off of what Jesus had mentioned about the smells. In some reports, we get feedback from the district that the leaks or the smells could be coming from tanks that are exempt. Could you explain to the committee why those tanks would be exempt?
Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
Sure. Just briefly, we do have a district rule that covers tanks. It's Rule 4623. There are some exemptions within that rule. I don't think I can speak to every tank, but if there's a certain subset of tanks or a location at the facility that you're interested in knowing about, maybe we could come back to a CSC and have a brief little update on tank requirements, on controls and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Jennifer. Didn't mean to cut you off, Cesar. This is Amy. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And it sounds like one of the action items for tonight is to have a full comprehensive update, including health impacts and answers to many of the questions that were asked today. Given the time, and I'm not seeing any more questions from the CSC at this point, we'll open it up to public comment. And I do see a couple of questions from Laura, and I'm not sure if folks have answers to these questions as well, or if this could be added as an action item. So Laura's asking, could worker fatigue result in too much flaring or an exposure if someone does not press a switch? In addition to that, she's asking, did anyone see metal dust? Were there any recent equipment malfunctions. Those are questions that continue to be asked. Not sure, again, if folks have answers to those questions today or if we should add that for the follow-up.
I can address the question about worker fatigue and just say that while that is a concern, that's something that all facilities take into account. That's one of many things that are accommodated for with layers and layers and layers of protection that are built into how the refinery operates and how it's staffed and how people are trained and what instruments we have in place as safety devices. Relative to the question about metal dust or equipment malfunctions, I can't really speak to that, and without knowing like a specific time frame of when someone has a question of if there was an equipment malfunction, you know, that's the key detail that we would need or that the Air District would need to be able to go back and try to correlate something. So anytime there's a question about that, knowing just better specifics about the timing of it is really helpful.
Thank you, Melinda, for that. And if folks have other questions or other updates, we're happy to have the Air District send those updates via email. So feel free to put them in the chat and we can make sure that they get released as part of the follow-up to today's conversation. At this time, we're going to transition to wrapping up today's meeting. I see that it is 7 o'clock, right on the dot. So I want to make sure that we give you some vital information so that you can continue to attend these meetings. So Liz, if you could share your screen for our next series of meetings. What you will see here is that we do have an agenda setting meeting scheduled for May 2nd at 4 o'clock. This is our meeting that typically happens on Zoom. This is a great place for you all to come and share your thoughts about how tonight's meeting went, any recommendations that you have for presenters, facilitators, for anyone that is here today. In addition, it's your opportunity to provide insights on what you want to see on the agenda, what you want to prioritize for the next meeting. We heard a lot of recommendations for the next agenda, but coming to this meeting will help elevate your areas of concern and elevate your recommendations. In addition to that, you'll see that there is the launch of the Vegetative Barrier Subcommittee meeting, which will be on May 7th from 4 to 5 p.m. And that will also be via Zoom. You should see that in your invite calendar so that you can attend those meetings. And then lastly, our next scheduled Community Steering Committee meeting will be May 22nd at our usual time from 4 to 7 on our usual Zoom link. With that said, this concludes tonight's meeting. If there are any other general comments that folks have, now would be the time to ask them. So I'm just going to pause for a second. And Laura, I'm seeing your question there on the chat. What catalyst is used and does it contain any metals? We'll make sure to include that in the series of questions that will hope to be addressed at the follow-up presentation. All right, not seeing any more questions. Thank you all for a wonderful evening and for all your questions. Appreciate how engaged and how you continue to show up in these meetings. Thank you so much. And this concludes our evening for tonight. See you next time. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Gracias.
A mí una pregunta.
¿Alguna pregunta?
Buenas noches.
Gracias, Elvia.
Buenas noches.
Bye, buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas
noches. No, porque aquí
Escuché mi nombre. ¿Que alguien tiene una pregunta?
Sí, yo, a mí, Lorena.
Hola, Lorena.
Ay, buenas noches. Una pregunta. La junta del 11 de abril, esa no es estipendio, ¿verdad? Nomás para no reportarla, pues.
Sí.
Pues. Gracias.
Gracias.
Que pasen buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Nos vemos. Buenas noches.